All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. We'll give some time for those who are able to join in. And while we are giving some time, I just want to briefly introduce myself. My name is Kristen Goss. I am managing partner of KWG Family Legal and Mediation Services. I'm a collaborative family law attorney, as well as an estate planning attorney, a wife, a mother, and co author of Civility Wins. And I am here with my dear friend and colleague, Sandy Boisrond.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We definitely appreciate you for tuning in. If you're catching the replay, um, you know, make a comment in the comment section and let us know that you're watching the replay. And feel free to, give us any commentary that you have about tonight's program.
Yes. And we are YouTube live. So please share, like, subscribe to our page, Civility Wins. We would greatly appreciate it. So we'll get started. We are here to talk about Black history because we all know that Black history is American history. And we want to celebrate the many accomplishments Blacks have made in America. This is Black History Month. And so, what better way to do so than to do it during Black History Month? And so I'd like to turn it over to Sandy now. You have any interesting facts to give us about Black history?
So, one of the things that I recognize about Black history is the fact that, when we think about the legal profession, because, we both are attorneys and we both have some very interesting experiences. But when it comes to the legal profession, it almost sounds like everything is a first, right? There's always the first Black, such and such attorney. But some facts that we want you guys to take mind of is when we think about Black history and the accomplishments of Black folks in the United States, we never hear about who the attorneys are who kind of were the pioneers of our role in the legal profession. So I want to share with you a fun fact. Macon Bowling Allen, this gentleman was the first Black attorney basically to open a law practice in the United States, and he was the first one to really be licensed. So this is in the 1800s. And you can only imagine, we talk about all of the issues that we face in the legal profession and all of the, things that we're experiencing for the first time. But imagine being Macon Bowling Allen, the very first to basically open his law practice and practice law. And imagine all the experiences that he had to go through in the 1800s. Kristen, I'll go back to you with a fun fact.
Sure. Just wanted to mention as we are discussing the legal arena, Jane Bolin. She was the first African American female judge in the United States and also the first to graduate from Yale Law School, the first African American to graduate from Yale Law School. So that was extremely, you know, thought provoking because you don't hear about Jane Bolin a lot of times. So,
And it's funny, when I was in law school, I remember oftentimes learning of folks who graduated from Yale Law School, Black folks that graduated from Yale Law School. And I'm just wondering, you know, what is it about Yale that created this, drive for Black, young Black folks to go to Yale Law School and to make it through that process, knowing that they were like very one of the few that would graduate from, a prestigious law school like Yale.
mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about some statistics because, we're in Black History Month. Throughout this month, we hear stories about all of the first that African Americans or Black folks basically accomplished during this period of time. So let's think a little bit about the percentages of us in the legal profession because, Kristen and I, one of the major things that we talked about as we started working on our book, which is Civility Wins, Find Your Peace While Taming the Beast, and it will launch soon. The reason that we came together to write this book was multifold. One is we were dealing with a lot of experiences in the legal profession, and there were some things that we kind of wanted to share with others that are coming behind us to make sure that they would have better experiences. But one was recognizing that we are few in the profession. And in the United States, when you look at the percentages of attorneys in comparison to our presence in the population, it's very small. So
Mhm.
the last percentage that I saw was under 5% of attorneys in the United States are Black. And I can only imagine what the percentages are of female and male, but under 5% in the United States. And even if we just look at Florida specifically, we're still in that low percentage. You know, we're talking in the fours, 4% or 4.7%, I think was the number. Um, in comparison to our presence in the US population, which is in the 13th percentile, we're only a fraction, like barely 5%. So
Mhm.
you can only imagine some of the experiences that we have when our counterparts are all in larger percentages and we're dealing with very unique experiences and we're going through very different processes when it comes to us learning to maneuver the system.
Absolutely. And, while we have made great strides, there is still more that we can accomplish. And so, in honor of Black History Month, we do want to, appreciate those who have gone on before us and outline, as we stated earlier, some of the major accomplishments that we have made as a nation. But we are focusing on today letting freedom ring in the legal arena. And as Sandy stated earlier, our book, Civility Wins, we will be launching that soon. So be on the lookout for that. But a few topics that we address in the book are professionalism and ethics. So, Sandy, I'll let you lead the way on this topic about professionalism and ethics in the legal arena.
So, in thinking back to law school days and trying to get ourselves ready for the practice of law, one of the major experiences that I can remember is realizing that what we experienced in law school, the very controlled setting that we were in, learning about what the law was like, learning about how we're going to end up practicing, I found that when I came into practice, it was kind of like night and day for me
Mhm.
because we came from a process where everything was kind of like under the law, everything was professionalism and ethics and decorum and zealous representation, and it was all in kind of cookie cutter, right? We learned how everything should be, and we learned about the ideals of the practice, but in coming into practice, I'm finding that professionalism is thrown right out the window in many instances. I'm finding that this concept of representing your client and being a zealous advocate, like really working hard to represent your client, versus the behaviors between attorneys is kind of like we're adversaries, even though technically we're supposed to be representing our client's interests. So we're not the adversaries, our clients are. So our role is to do the best that we can to represent our clients' needs, but we're supposed to do so with a sense of a basic common courtesy, right? Professionalism, ethics, and understanding that our interactions are supposed to come at a certain level. It's just like when we go into court, the expectation is that we're supposed to have a certain respect to the court and a respect for the judge and the staff. Um, but I found a lot that that's been lacking, and
Mhm.
and this is even with I listen to the bar talk a lot about civility, and the bar associations talk about civility and professionalism and ethics, but when I'm in practice, I'm finding so many times that I'm like, this is not civil, this is not professional, this is not ethical, but it just seems so commonly ingrained in the system that it almost becomes one with the system. So it makes us, as relatively new in the practice, sometimes really question, like, am I meant to be in this kind of environment? Right? It really, really creates a lot of questions. So um, I think that's been a really great challenge, especially being a Black person or even a Black woman in the practice of law, is realizing how many things are really against some of the common core principles that we learned about in law school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you bring up a very valid point, Sandy, regarding professionalism and ethics and striving to a higher standard, because that's, what we've been told and what you and I know vow to live by. We are attorneys and we are held to a higher standard. And of course, as a collaboratively trained and a collaborative family law attorney, I have to put in a plug here for collaborative law. And those are the basic concepts of collaborative law and representing families outside of court, working together in a team environment, and knowing that while I'm representing someone's interests and their interests may be different from the other attorney on the other end representing the other participant, we are working together as a team for the family, because at the end of the day, the decisions that are going to be made are going to be impacting this family, and we're dealing with each other in a professional way, because we're dealing with emotions, we're dealing with children issues, we're dealing with all kinds of things, and at the end of the day, we're dealing with humans. And so we want to remain civil to one another and professional, and give each other the utmost respect. And so
Right.
those are some of the issues based on our experiences, as Sandy mentioned, that we want to encourage law students that are coming up in the legal arena to not be discouraged about, to be on the lookout for certain things pertaining to professionalism and ethics, knowing what that stands for, what it looks like, and just sharing some of our experiences that we've gone through over the years that we've been practicing, and looking forward in a positive direction, hoping that things will eventually change and that we will continue to strive towards professionalism and ethics in the legal arena.
And, when I think about this topic that we're talking about tonight, which is let freedom ring in the legal arena, there are so many things that we encounter in our day to day, just in the regular environments that we live in. When it comes to the legal profession, many of us had an expectation that was a little bit higher. There was a bar that was supposed to be higher, and so when we as young Black professionals come into such a profession, it really, really kind of does something to us, our psyche a bit. And, it makes us really question, if we're interacting with the system like this, can you only imagine how our clients are interacting? Especially in the context of if we're talking things like criminal law, civil rights, things that involve, the actual loss of, someone's ability to survive, or the loss of someone's ability to be free. When we think about let freedom ring, we want that to be something universal. And in particular, in the legal profession, we kind of expect that there should be certain things in place, because our goal is to make sure that our client gets a result. And oftentimes that result has to, it involves their freedom in a sense, right? Their freedom to either be who they are, their freedom to be able to accomplish certain things, the freedom from harm. And so if we as the professionals can't maintain certain levels of civility and decorum, what
Mm-hmm.
does that say about the service that we're providing to the people, right? What does that say about our ability to support the needs of the community, in particular when it comes to representation? Because
Yes.
there are a lot of stereotypes that may be had about, Black people, Black women in particular. We get a lot of flack of certain types of behaviors. And it's like, when you and I walk into a room, there's an expectation, right, of what our behavior will be like. So when Kristen comes into the room and her voice is at a level, right, and her tone is at a level and she's speaking in a certain way, it's kind of like people are thrown aback a little bit. And I'm like, well, what did you expect me to be like?
Mm-hmm.
What was
Yeah.
your thought process when you saw me walking up, right? Did you
Mm-hmm.
expect certain things based upon me being a woman? Did you
Mm-hmm.
expect certain things based upon me being a Black woman? Did you
Mm-hmm.
just expect something based upon me being a Black person?
Mm-hmm.
Um, So being professional, I always feel like becomes a question mark for us when we come into play, because the profession is kind of cookie cutter, right? There's a view of who an attorney is and what they look like and what types of behaviors they have. But when
Mm-hmm.
you come with, I remember for a long time, Kristen, you had your hair in a certain style.
Mm-hmm.
And same for me. I've had my hair in locks for a very long time. So there are certain thought processes that come with our hairstyles even.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I think about, letting freedom ring, I almost feel like that freedom is for us as Black young professionals in trying to be who we are in a profession that already has an established face, an established identity, and established viewpoints. So, us coming into the profession, it's not always seen as we are professional just by our very being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the hair thing, and I mean that's part of who we are. It's part of our culture, so it's something positive. It should be, and I think that we are heading towards that direction, to embrace who we are as Black women, as Black individuals, and so. With that said, it's also important to understand that, as the late great Dr. King said, we want to make sure that we're judging people based on the content of their character, opposed to what they look like on the outside. And I think that that's also something to note, and one of the concepts that we want to make sure that we're getting across on tonight's Black History special about letting freedom ring in the legal arena, to treat everyone on at the fair, the same slate, deal with an individual based on their character, get to know the person. We all have biases and prejudices that are, ingrained in us based on nurture, based on experiences, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, when we are talking legal arena, we are hoping that we can be aware of those biases and prejudices, even that we may have, and note it, but learn to adjust and to deal with individuals on an individual basis based on who they are in the inside. And again, I do see great strides that we're making and taking towards that. And it's our hope, and I'm sure and positive that we will be continuing to strive in the right direction.
And I think about some of the leaders that we've had over the years, and their positioning in supporting our ability to be free as Black professionals, as Black women. um, I think it's been a great thing for us to see some representation at different levels,
Mhm.
regardless of people's political views and desires. Having Barack Obama as that first Black president who actually was an attorney, that leaves an impression, right? It gives children a view of, how our world is situated, and the fact that someone who was an attorney then became the president of the United. He went through he worked in politics, and then he went on to become the president of the United States.
Mhm.
Again, regardless of people's personal views and perspectives, that was a something really rare that we probably didn't think we would see in our lifetime. And so
Absolutely.
being able to see something like that, and then having the first lady
Yes.
also be a attorney, that did something different for my mindset in
Mhm.
feeling that I was free to become certain things in this world, right? For many, many years, growing up, I don't remember feeling like becoming certain things was an option.
Mm.
I don't remember feeling that way. There were certain things that were always, accessible, being a teacher, having certain types of jobs, right? And sometimes people would even think, certain things in medical, like being a nurse and things like that. But there were a lot of times growing up where I don't think I ever envisioned myself being a president, right? or myself being an attorney or a judge. Those are things that have always seemed to some degree unattainable because we never really saw a lot of faces that look like ours. And
Mhm.
truth be told, it wasn't until I became an attorney that I started to see other people who looked like me that were attorneys.
Mhm.
You know, I can even think back throughout my adult years before I even came down this path. I don't remember a lot of Black attorneys and Black judges. It just wasn't something that I felt was a face.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Oop. Want to unmute you.
oh, sorry, did you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
So, I want to tap dance on this concept of, the hair.
Mhm.
That was something even in law school that I remember was an issue. And in law school, I wore my hair in more of an afro puff, like loose natural. I didn't have, I think I had locks initially when I got to law school, and then I went loose natural. And I remember when I decided in law school to lock my hair, that a couple of my professors had some weird commentary about it.
Mm.
And I also remember folks having discussions about, how what's appropriate in terms of working for a law firm.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is I did an internship with a law firm during one of my periods of time, and it never came up. It wasn't even a thought for the employer. I almost felt like it was more a thought for us as Black people, the issue. Now,
Mhm.
it's not to say that others don't have that thought in mind and that it won't be an obstacle, but I felt more pressure from those that did look like me than from those that didn't look like me. So I always wonder if that's something where we are stunting ourselves in some ways in terms of this concept of professional or professionalism. How does the hair play a role?
Mm.
What about you, Kristen? Did you have any like experiences where your hair was like an issue?
Well, I can just say when my hair is straight, I'm still natural. Woohoo, go natural. But sometimes I do choose to straighten my hair, and the comments that I get when my hair is straight opposed to when my hair is curly is different. When I straighten my hair, the usual comment is, "Oh, your hair looks so great," and I would have to agree with you. I think that the pressure is more so um, coming from within, from those that look like us, opposed to
Right,
those that don't. And it's just interesting, you know, um, how that comes about, like this ingrained indoctrination almost of what professional looks like or should look like.
right,
And I think I go back to my original statement that our hair is different, and even within our own community, we have different textures of hair. And it's like,
right,
embrace who you are, embrace what God created you to be,
right.
and that's it. Changing who I am, that should not be a topic of discussion. Um, I think we need to be focusing on what professionalism should look like and what ethics should look like. And for me, that is treating people with respect and dignity, knowing the law, being able to apply the law fairly across the board, being able to advocate for those you represent while also treating the other side, quote unquote, with respect, because we are individuals, we are human, and we deserve to be treated fairly at the end of the day.
And
Yeah.
when we go through these different experiences about things that have absolutely nothing to do with our ability and our skill and our training and our education, for me sometimes I feel like that is kind of like just a slap in the face to this concept of freedom of
Mhm.
expression and freedom of being, because in all the things that we tend to experience in the Black community, one of the things is always a question of our being, right? There's always a stereotype or a bias or a prejudice against our existence. And I
Mhm.
even see it sometimes in our client base. Sometimes when we're serving certain clients, it's like when they come to us, there's certain behaviors. But if they go to our counterparts, the behaviors are completely different, right? They'll treat us one way when certain things are happening in their case. But if they had a previous attorney, they didn't have any issues. They didn't complain, they didn't have any problems. But coming on this side, it's like, oh, we got a whole host of problems and issues and questions and concerns. Um, so I'll say that I see it at all levels. I don't just see it as the profession creating some restrictions and restraints on our ability to be free within the profession. But I also feel like it comes from, the community, because they have certain biases and thought processes about what an attorney is and isn't, who an attorney is in terms of how they look and how they behave. And it even reflects itself in, we're in an environment now in the legal profession where virtual is in, right? A lot of people are working virtually. A lot of people have kind of left aside this concept of a brick and mortar office, right? That traditional law firm, with the big building and the big desk and the big office and the reception. A lot of people have left that, and we've now shifted gears a little bit to more of a virtual setting. So it allows more flexibility in the profession. But I sometimes wonder, does it create some impressions too on the client base when they look at, if I go to this law firm, this is the impression that I get. Whereas if I go here, this person is totally online. Is the respect level the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for me, because I have 3 daughters, and um, I would hope that they observe and see me in action. And we'll talk about this next week. Confidence is part of our topic in the book, Civility Wins. But when my oldest says to me, oh, are you going to apply for that award? And it's, let's say, for example, the top 40 under 40, and the feedback or the response that I give her is, well, of course, why not? And in turn, her response is, well, you're Black, mommy. You know,
Wow.
I would hope that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that would change, to
Right.
know that regardless of the color of your skin, there should be no limitations. It's like you stated, what accomplishments have you made? What's your experience? What's your education? Who
Right.
are you as a person? What is your character? Are you professional? And professional meaning treating people with respect, abiding by the ethical standards that we need to be abiding by as attorneys.
Right.
you know um and so I'm hopeful, and of course I'm strong-willed, as is my 3 daughters. I can already see. So I will continue to train them, and talk to them, and share with them, no matter what, or no matter who may come in your path and say you can't do this or you can't do that. You can do
Right.
anything that you put your mind to. And I'm just so excited that we are here today. Again, we've made some great strides in 2022 opposed to even 2010. And I am just excited to see what the future holds, not just for us, but future generations to come. Because I will tell you, and Sandy, this generation, or the younger generation coming up after us, they're a different breed. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what they have to offer. Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that I would add to your conversation about what your daughter, thought about the whole award thing, is that you know we're in position right now, in a very strong position, to make some shifts in people's perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that I feel like sometimes I wonder if these types of things stunt us or if they help us is the fact that, we are labeled, right? We are Black attorneys. Most times we are referenced as Black attorneys or Black lawyers. I almost wonder sometimes if that hurts us, because are we seen as a subset of attorneys only, or are we seen as contributors in the legal profession, at least in the way that we would want to be seen? You know what I'm saying? Because when I say Black attorney, it's to be part of a collective in some sort. But I also find sometimes people look at us as Black attorney. It's like it's not attorney first; it's Black attorney. Um, what do you think about that? Do you think that that hurts us or helps us at all?
You know, it's an interesting perspective that you just shared. And my honest answer to that is I don't know. Um, I really don't. I think there is this push towards diversity and inclusion in the legal arena, and I'm appreciative of that. And so, in that respect, I think it helps because, like you said, people in the population, the community, they appreciate having people that represent, who could represent them, that look like the world, who that look like everybody who's represented in the United States of America. Does it hurt us? That's, I think, to be determined, or some type of research I think we have to make. But you did bring up an interesting point. I think at the end of the day, just really focusing on our experiences and our capabilities, and regardless of our gender, our race, our ethnicity, where, etc., is the key. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that, Sandy.
We have much to learn, of course. We
Yes.
have much to learn. Um, as we shift to close out here, because we have a couple of things that we just want to add on to here. Um, when we think about letting freedom ring, I think we have some work to do. I think we have made some great strides. We've done some great things. Um, but I always feel like there are some things that are lingering, that we are constantly dealing with. And the fact that so many conversations have to do with diversity and inclusion. It's just almost like, why are we still talking diversity and inclusion instead of just being diverse and being inclusive? Um, and sometimes even when I look at the initiatives and the processes that they go through to try to implement some of these things, it's kind of like, I feel like it's counterproductive. I feel like there's a lot of things that you can do to be inclusive that don't involve you creating a separate committee or group or task force to get that done, right? It's being open to different ideas, being open to different perspectives. And if you really want to be diverse and inclusive, then include more people in the conversation, right? If you're trying to target and get more Black attorneys to do whatever it is, be a part of a committee or a group or an organization, then reach out to those Black groups that are already in existence and bring them into the fold, right? And it's hard because I know that different groups try to do different initiatives and things of that sort, but sometimes it comes off as, well, we just need some Black folks, right? That's what it comes off as sometimes. We just need some Black attorneys to fill the gap. And that's not necessarily how people want to feel. We don't want to feel like we're just there to fill your room, or to fill a quota. We want to feel like we actually need to be involved in the conversation. All
Good
right, so
point. Mm-hmm.
I think this is the point where we want to talk a little bit about our book, Civility Wins, Find Your Peace While Taming the Beast. Um, I'll hit to you, Kristen, first to talk about some experiences that got us to this book. And I'm going to pull our quote up.
Oh, absolutely. So there's a lot I could say, but of course, you have to like, subscribe, and share Civility Wins. We are on YouTube. Also, we are on the Instagram at Civility Wins Series. Um, but in a nutshell, I would say, as Sandy mentioned earlier, I wanted to go to law school because I wanted to help people. I wanted to empower those who may have felt powerless. And you kind of have this idealistic idea like, okay, we're going to be attorneys and we're going to be fair, and it's about justice and equality, etc. And after graduating from law school and passing the bar and going out on my own, I guess, Sandy and I both, we look young, even though we're not as young as we may look, tooting our own horns there. But, there's this concept in general of, you're young, you're inexperienced. And when you're starting off, that is very well true and relevant. But there's also this idea that because you're young, you need to, um, kind of be hazed in a sense, and hazed in a negative sense, talked down to or spoken as if you are illiterate. Um, and I think it goes back to what I stated earlier, treating each other with respect. There are plenty of people that I can think about that I look up to as mentors, regardless of their race, their background, and all of that. And so kudos to those individuals and those great examples. But it's, those few that as you go through life and you go through different experiences, at some point, it's like, wow, I don't even know if I want to be an attorney anymore. This is crazy. Um, but, it's one of those things where you live and you learn. And instead of using those negative experiences for worse, you use it towards your benefit and you give back. I think you and I both, Sandy, we are proponents of giving back to our community,
Right.
giving back to those who need us. Um, and so that is one of the main reasons why we decided to co-author this book, Civility Wins, to give those that might not have experienced what we've experienced yet, or who may be experiencing it as we talk, some pointers based on our experiences and what we continue to experience at times, as hope, as encouragement to not give up. If you have a dream and, you know, whatever that dream may be, and here we're talking about the legal arena because our dream was to be in the legal arena and be attorneys. And
Right.
so our hope is that law students, young attorneys, whether, you know, young in experience or young in age, would read the book and, get some pointers from the book to encourage them and help them remain focused on their goal.
And we definitely there were so many different things that we went through, so many different experiences. I mean, I think we really had to be selective of some of the situations that we wanted to include in the book. But I will read one of the quotes from the book, and this is something that I think at its core is a reflection of a lot of the different issues that we talk about in the book. So this is one of the quotes under professionalism in our book. It says, "It's not just about what you wear or what you have. Your attitude matters." And the reason that we brought up this particular quote was because we started to talk about this concept of the business suit, um, and what the business suit represents in the legal profession, right? It's the black suit or the blue suit. It's the certain type of heel. It's a certain type of hairstyle. It's kind of a cookie cutter version of what an attorney is. And whenever you hear the word lawyer or the word attorney, there are certain behaviors that come with that. There are certain attitudes that come with that. There's certain style of talking and certain style of walking and the handshake. Um, but I think sometimes, when we looked at some scenarios that we'd been in, it's like the suit is a representation of something, but it is not everything, right? It doesn't matter this suit that you put on, the watch, the car, the house, the accessories, the gadgets that you put on. It's about your attitude, not only towards the profession, but towards the other people that you work with in the profession. And to take this into a Black History Month context, um, for a very long time, being Black in this profession has been a challenge because it's kind of like we're expected to exceed and excel and go way above and beyond. So even with the suit on, we're not attorneys, right? When we walk into the courthouse, we tend to get certain questions, even though we have the suit on. And it's kind of strange because if my counterpart walks in with me, they're never questioned, right? But when I walk in, even though I have the suit on, I'm still not treated in that same manner that I would expect, right? If we're talking about freedom ringing in this profession, we have to have some commonalities of treatment so that when I walk in and when a counterpart walks in, that we're at the same level. And I can say that we're not there yet. We have some moments where I feel like, all right, we're getting there, but we're not there yet because us walking in with the suit, you would think is sufficient, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit more than that. And even when we're not treated the same, we have to understand the level of decorum that we have to keep. Because just because someone wants to treat you a certain way doesn't mean that you have to be on their level behavior wise, right? You can still maintain your professionalism and check somebody properly.
I love it, Sandy.
Absolute, absolute. Got to get the check in. But in terms of the book overall, when we thought about civility wins, find your peace while taming the beast, this concept of professionalism and keeping our attitudes in check no matter what came our way, but also maintaining a level of understanding that we are professional, we are attorneys, we are capable. The things that we do matter, and it doesn't matter what the others are doing. It matters what we do. And us maintaining professionalism is the only thing that we should be keeping at the forefront of our conversations and our interactions. And I know it's difficult. It's not an easy task. That's why Kristen and I have each other, and we wrote this book. We have other colleagues that we reach out to and that we connect with, um, to make a difference in the way that we behave in the profession, but also impacting others that are coming after us.
Yeah, absolutely. And just want to encourage you guys again to like, share, subscribe to our YouTube page, Civility Wins. We are also on Instagram at Civility Wins Series. And come in and connect with us next Monday. We will be here, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on February 28th. Um, and just to give you a little bit of a heads up as to what we will be discussing, still kind of touching on things and issues that we talk about in our book, Civility Wins. We will be discussing Let Your Light Shine and touching upon confidence, as well as Civility Wins, Find Your Peace, and discussing bullying, red flags, and focusing on wellness. So we are again excited. It's Black History Month. We know that Black history is American history, and we also know that we will continue to be civil and that civility wins.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, we'll be back here on this YouTube channel, Civility Wins. Please don't hesitate to leave a comment. Please make sure that you like this video, share this video, subscribe to our channel, and make sure that you click the notification bell. So you click on next week's event, the 28th, you can actually click on the reminder button to be notified when we go live. Okay? So thank you guys so much. We definitely appreciate you all for tuning in tonight.
Take care. Remain well.